Hello and welcome everyone to the webinar from Savision, a subsidiary of Martello Technologies. Today we are talking about Office 365, Azure and SCOM, monitoring control in a hybrid environment from Microsoft. Just to introduce the voices that you'll be hearing during this, we've provided some lovely pictures. I see mine's a bit out of date. I probably need to get that improved. My name is Justin Boerrigter. You will be forgiven for not being able to pronounce my surname. It is the hardest surname in the company at the moment. I'm the technical sales manager and have worked with dashboards for Microsoft and monitoring platforms for close to 8.5 years now. My role is to help a lot of our customers understand our technology, train them on it, and listen to their feedback and get the developers to improve on it. So I've brought one of my developers along with us, Zvi Uretzky.
Hello everyone, my name is Zvi Uretzky and I'm a software developer here in Savision. I have more than 10 years of experience in IT world. I was monitoring team leader back in the days, and I'm a developer for more than 4 years.
And a monitoring team leader on top of Microsoft SCOM?
Yeah.
I think we mentioned in the last webinar, between both of us, if we haven't heard about the problems from SCOM, then it doesn't exist yet. We're glad to have Zvi on board, and Zvi is the main driving force behind what we're going to show you today, a different way of how to look at monitoring around it. Before I dive into that, just a little bit of an idea of the company that you're come to know. Savision has 10 years plus experience in dashboards. Originally started out as purely a Microsoft partner in the System Center Operations Manager space. That has obviously grown as we now have 20 strategic technical partners around the world, including companies like SolarWinds, PRTG, and various other ones as well. We have a global presence. So me and Zvi are located here in the Amsterdam office. We do have a couple of our colleagues I see calling in as well from our Canada office in Canada. We have an office in Montreal, an office down in Dallas, and I believe a colleague or two out in Miami, and an office in Paris. So we are truly global. We are spread with a lot of partners out there as well, and I'm sure they're listening in. We are the market leaders in IT operation analytical dashboards, ITOA. Been it for 10 years, and we'll plan on being it for the next 10 years. We have over 900 customers, including a new one brought on board this morning, so that number is already out of date, and over 2,200 users that continuously add to our forums, to our products, to events, and feedback from us. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of help around the world. And what they're helping us with is a simple scenario that we work around. We've focused on dashboards that streamline the ability to take very complex data and make it very simple and very effective to work on. And this is the image that we use. On the left-hand side is probably what you're struggling with as an IT company or as a business today. There is a lot of data out there, and a lot of data that can potentially, cause you to go blind on problems, or every month you're shifting to new data sources. Something we'll talk about during this webinar is obviously the introduction of cloud from Microsoft and where they want to drive with that. That brings its own new data source to your already existing amount of data in your systems. What we do is we sit as a translation from that data to represent it as a more understandable system for human beings. And that could be your IT team, that could be your administrators, that could be your application owners, that could even be the business, who understand email as a service. Is it running or is it not, as a simple red, green, yellow box? You and I know in IT that's not always the case because there's so many factors we have to look at. But being able to represent that to the business is really the goal of Savision, keeping it simple, keeping it easy, and keeping it actionable. We were brainstorming that, and Zvi came out with this one as something that you could experience as well.
More and more companies are thinking of moving to a cloud. It's obvious we don't need to mention that. It's a typical company moving process and migration process is starting with something simple as services as a service in the cloud. And for that example, we can mention Office 365. Obviously, that's one we're going to talk about. And they continue later on with infrastructure as a services, and then I'll continue with the platform as a services. This is a typical migration how it looks like.
Yeah, I think that's the commonality we come across. How many times people have asked us, what do you do on the Office 365 migration? Actually, our company's going through it as well right now. So this rang a lot of bells. Hopefully it's a scenario that you guys recognize. If not, the other scenario that comes with it is obviously, you've got stuff in the cloud, or you're thinking about moving to the cloud, and you've got some historical monitoring system which has grown within your environment and makes sense to use, and you've matured it to a level that letting go of it is not the actual answer you want. So you're going to end up with a scenario where there's a lot of stuff in cloud and a lot of stuff on-prem. How do you group that together? When we looked at this scenario, cloud-based data, Zvi works with it every day. It's a stream of data that's coming out. It can actually overwhelm you if you're not prepared for it. And a lot of the systems that are, historically like Operations Manager and the other monitoring platforms, they're designed to understand data in a different speed.
Yeah, from one side, it simplifies a lot of things when it comes within your business, but also complicate your environment, how it looks like, and how you can maintain it. So you have one side your on-premise environment and cloud. So we understand our clients, they're struggling with a problem.
So just to make sure we're on the right page, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to launch a quick survey. If you guys wouldn't mind just letting us know that we are touching the right audience. I'll give you actually a minute just to fill in your answers on there. So, the scenarios we came up with, we definitely want to keep in touch with the people that are involved in this webinar and make sure that we're touching you at the right level, giving you the right information. Yeah, it looks like we've got a good feedback in. I'm just going to close that out, and then we will share the results. So as you can see, just on the votes that are already in here, the majority of you already use SCOM. So that's no surprise from us. Yeah. That's a pretty good tool. We've been in that area for a long time. Yeah, that would probably mean that most of you know about our integration and product to SCOM already, known as Live Maps. And a lot of you are going with Office 365 and Azure out there. So that's good. Other cloud services, Amazon Web Services, I'm going to assume is in there. Yeah,
it bases our assumption. Being in SCOM, moving to Office 365, then continue with the Azure IS and PaaS solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that we are on the same page. So we're definitely touching the right audience. Hopefully you guys are communicating with each other afterwards. If not, feel free to reach out to us. We'll get you onto our forums. So the challenges we're seeing then is that IT environments are getting more and more complex. And obviously you have to keep that under control. Firefighting it is not always the way to go. We will demonstrate to you today how you can get that information together and actually make your life a lot easier no matter where this data is coming from. That's the goal of what we'll do. How that actually works, how Savision solution works to do that, is we create a layer, centralized data layer, that allows you to flow information or insert information or integrate, as we refer to it, into our data layer, which essentially means that you have a centralized area to look at the data. Now, we don't replace the underlying tools. We don't go out and say we're better than SCOM. That's not the case. SCOM does the monitoring for us. We add a layer on top of it that allows you to get data that SCOM cannot handle, potentially together a lot faster. We started doing this a couple of years ago. It's not just about SCOM, but you'll see here that most of the questions we got up was around the Microsoft packaging. Yeah, majority of our customers are Microsoft, so that makes sense. As you can see from here, you have the ability to create simple overlay dashboards. Now, I know that image doesn't do it justice, so we'll dive into the product and talk a little bit about that. If you are a Live Maps customer, a lot of those dashboards will make sense already. But by having a centralized data layer, you have a centralized source for reporting, for dashboarding, for analytics on there as well. And that's what we're bringing to the game now. So for those of you who have followed us for a few years, we're stepping out of Operations Manager and giving you a way to correlate the data together from the systems. That means our goals are still the same. We reduce the tickets that go to the help desk, and we're ahead of any outage. We're helping you become proactive, just like we used to do in SCOM. Just now we can do it with any data source outside of there. And that is hopefully the goal during your migration. So if you guys are moving mailboxes out for Office 365, then potentially, you might feel that SCOM's going to lose all of its great monitoring ability on the stuff that sits in cloud. That is the case. You're hiring another infrastructure company to basically run the infrastructure underneath, being Microsoft. And what you'll be getting back is just the application layer. But if you've got that hybrid scenario, you still want to see that as the email service, because that's how the business understands it. They really don't care where it sits as long as they can send their email. having a centralized data layer in between means you don't have to explain to them, it's sitting in a different system. You need to look at this screen to see that data.
No. As a user, you would like to see if in one single pane of glass if you have a problem or not. You don't care where it's stored, if it's in a cloud or in on-premise.
Yeah, and as you move stuff to the cloud, other parts of your IT department or IT operations start becoming important as well. So, we noticed a lot of requests coming back from our customers to make sure network traffic was really good, because when all your users have to suddenly go to cloud to get their email, that means they have to go outside and they need priority on that. So luckily, Savision's been purchased and we're underneath the Martello Technologies name now. There are other solutions within our family that do allow you, if you do identify potentially network traffic as a problem, ring up our account managers or sales team. They're very willing to introduce you to our hardware abilities to improve that, as well as monitoring on your voice communications to keep that control. So that's roughly the idea of what we're going to do. I'd like to dive a little bit down into this slide to show you a little bit more on the integrations before we actually go and show you the product. One of the questions we got immediately when we started talking about these are the data sources we can get was, what do you actually pull out of that data source? Now, I haven't had time to update slides around that, but I will show you a document which you can request from us where I'll actually outline what you can get out of this Savision IQ per integration. So there are some details. We'll walk you through the features of how those look from 1 to 11. So I'm not going to focus too much on that, but I will sit down and focus on what we get out of SCOM. So everything that's in SCOM besides performance counters, I'll just be honest on that one, is retrievable into our data layer, which means you'll get objects, their health states, properties, alerts, relationships. So there'll be groups and distributed applications automatically imported into the layer. How the product works right now is you can still drill down on those objects into live maps and get the performance counters and all of the underlying data. So we're not cutting it off from you. In fact, it actually works faster now, the way that we do this for troubleshooting, but we do pull all of that component. And of course, you can interact with it because we do focus on actionable dashboards. So you can notice here, you have the ability to set a resolution state of an alert or to actually put it in a closed state. And that goes in and recalculates the health or resets the monitor, something that a lot of end users don't know how to do. So when we actually put our solution on top of a lot of unlive map SCOM environments, a lot of people ask us questions like, well, the server's green, but why do I have 292 alerts still open on it? And then the explanation of, well, you have to train the end users to resolve the alert because it doesn't naturally disappear most of the time if it's a specific setting in SCOM. That suddenly becomes visible. So we do that automatically through our systems as well. So that does fade easier.
And here you can add that we also have integration for service ticketing systems. Yep. So you can connect the alert to your service ticket and then transform to more business value.
Yep. So that's something that we're starting to bring now with the full integration. So ServiceNow is a good example, and we can do that in the demo environment. I can show it to you, where you could fully automate that so that the user doesn't forget to go into the system. They just close down the ticket and we'll go into SCOM or any system that we communicate with. Now, when we hit the virtualization in the cloud platforms, obviously that changes a little bit because some of those tools don't have a way to acknowledge the alerts. So what we're doing for Azure Monitor, I don't know, Zvi, if you want to touch on that, what we pull.
So for Azure Monitor, we're retrieving the subscription information. We treat subscription as a group. So you can see your, for example, I have a client that's using a subscription per stages, staging, developing, or production environment. So he just uses it for definition of environments. And below the subscription, we have resource groups, and we treat them as a groups as well. The end resource groups contains resources, which has alert rules that raises alerts, and that's what we're trying to receive from Azure Monitor.
Yeah, and essentially Azure Monitor can be set up for a multitude of components. So we got this question, and I think we're getting it again as well through the chat here, is there are other packages within Azure or within Azure Monitoring that hook up with each other that you can generate alerts through Azure Monitoring. So we get in a question in here, can we pull OMS through this?
Suite, yes, Operation Manager Suite. The data we're getting from Azure Insights is the alerts that you're creating using it based on log analytics.
Yeah, so
you're part of that operation management.
Yeah, so it's a complex ability, but operations management uses Apps Insights to get data out. We connect to Azure Monitor, which drives Apps Insights or gets the data from Apps Insights. So yes, we can pull the OMS data in. Do not expect to see it as a computer or an object, because that's why we've built the Microsoft Azure integration, so the one I'm showing now. So this is literally if you are deploying infrastructure into Azure, you want to keep an eye on your virtual machines and, component sites, databases, the AD controllers.
Resource health.
Yeah, so the resources out of there. So if those are visible within your workspace, then we can pull those as well and correlate the data together.
Yeah.
And the last one, which strangely enough doesn't really go through Azure Monitor, it has its own sort of way of telling you it's got problems, is Office 365.
Yeah, Office 365 is a service in the cloud. What we retrieve is all the services and services features and their health state, including incidents and alerts.
Yeah, so I think that covers it. If you want copies of these ones, let us know. Obviously, this grows upon customer request as well. So if you do feel like there's something missing out of it that you want to have in the integration, let us know, and we can always add in there, because once we've unlocked how to get the data in there, it is pretty simple for us to get there. So I'm just going to switch over to Zvi's screen now, and Zvi set up for us a sort of test environment based on what we're pulling in. So he's got a free account sitting in Azure monitoring right now.
I have my free account for that. So let's start just showing how simple is it.
First, how to get the data into the layer would be a good start. Yeah. Before we go further, this installs or will require a server. We have the prerequisites available on the web page. If you can't find them, drop me an email or send me a Twitter. You're looking at a Windows server with about 16 gigs of RAM that runs an IIS role on it, so that you can get access to the HTML5 front end. That's this end. Once you pop in the license key, that unlocks the integrations. Then you will be asked to find out which integration you want to run. Depending on each one of the integrations, there's a different process to add it, but we try and keep this really simple. Yeah. So for Operations Manager, for our existing customers, it's just dead simple. Select Operations Manager, target us to a management server, give us a profile. That could be a view-only account, that could be a full admin, it's up to you. For our purposes of what we pull the data out of, view everything with no rights in SCOM is good enough. That then gets the data coming into our data store. Now that actually counts as one user against the target system, and that works for all of those systems. So we're not adding extra overheads. We're not putting more strain on those systems. I get asked that a lot, because a lot of people are worried of, knocking over their monitoring platforms. We don't do that. We act as if we were a user connecting to the system. Mm-hmm. You just get to control how often that happens in our timing.
And you also can configure it as well. You have the option to configure how the time interval when you want to pull the data of discovery or your operational data.
Yeah, so it might be good just to show them one that you've already hooked up there. So this is Monitor Insights.
Yeah, so this is my Monitoring Insights integration. As you can see, I didn't mention the subscription ID, although I could, but in case I have only one, so I'm not really care of that.
So if you put it in on this way with just the tenant ID, you pull all the subscriptions from the tenant?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That makes life easier. And if you put it in with a single subscription ID, you only get that subscription. Yeah. So you can tailor the information coming in even at the integration level.
Yeah. What is important to mention that you will be required to predefine a couple of steps in Azure. You will have to define an application and grant that application acquired permissions to use it, because we are using that application. That's how Azure allows you as external resource using the data.
Yeah, so not everyone can just hook up to your Azure. You have to actually agree that this application has access.
Yeah, and we also simplify the way how we do that by just running a PowerShell. You will have to mention your username and password. That's it, basically.
Yep.
That's all we need.
We have made it really simple for you to connect the systems, and then once they're up and running, they're starting to pour the data in. Some systems are easier than others. So the Office 365 one, I actually had the pleasure of doing that last week. It's a PowerShell script we provide, but you could go through it in the manual steps as admin. But I'd recommend the PowerShell. It takes about 5 minutes, and then the admin just has to say, yes, I agree to this application having access, and you're away flowing the data in.
Yeah, so we explain how easy it is. Let's show it.
So once you get the data flowing into the system, then it becomes visible to you through this searching experience?
Yeah, I'll start with the components that we are getting. We have this tabbing system. Let's filter only for Azure Monitor. In that case, you can see all the Azure Insights components that we are getting. For example, I will pick up my Azure subscription. As I told before, under the subscription, we have resource groups. Each resource group you can see here in the heat map, all the resources in that container. We have another view for you as an explorer. It's also nice to see if we drill down a bit. Also nice, you know what? Maybe we'll show the resource groups and the alerts directly from here.
So this essentially pulls all the alerts from the resource group in. You can get the complete list of what's going on. Doesn't forward it into SCOM, so you're not putting more capacity onto SCOM. You just get the ability to see the alerts here. And some data around it, like you get this one happened 36 minutes ago. Something went wrong.
Yeah.
You haven't set your alerts correctly to tell you data yet, but
yeah.
I can imagine it's just a demo environment for you.
This is my demo environment, so don't take it serious. I had this conversation with one of the clients who already used that. He really simplified the way he gets the information from Azure Insight, because in Azure Monitor right now, or Azure Insight, I don't know how you call it, there are different types of alerts. There is something they are calling alert classic alerts and log alerts. So each of those types is really complicated to understand that concept, and it's different. Also, it's in different location you can find this information. So here it's all unified and simplified the way you see in one place. We don't care how it's called. We just pull it here as one type of alert. So it's really,
I think that's the joy of having a system that's not stuck to hereditary SQL indexing or tabbing on that one. So we basically put the information in there and we correlate it against objects as best we can. Obviously, we can talk to you guys how you want that correlated, because some of these are abstract systems. You can actually correlate the objects yourself, and I'll show that just now through our boarding system, which is essentially a container, similar to groups or distributed applications from SCOM already, but just allow you to group the data as if it was one data source in there. But yeah, we pull all of the data and make it visible to you.
Yeah, so I've shown Azure Insights. Let's go for Office 365 maybe. What I think. So here is our Office 365 environment. So we're not really concerned about the RITs.
Just to let you know, this is actually live. This is our company right now. We're not too worried about Microsoft Teams because we don't use it. So that one's out. So we don't build dashboards with Teams in it, because we'll get a red saying the subscription doesn't work. But that's literally us just pulling a live environment directly in here.
So I filtered all the data just for services, because services in Office 365, you can see all the services, and you can drill down and see the features inside of this service. Let's take a look at Microsoft Teams, for example. We have one incident open for that.
Yeah, so that's something that's new that you're seeing on the dashboard that you won't get in SCOM or in our live map system, because SCOM doesn't have a way to understand incidents. Now that's, generally will sit in a ticketing system. Or you'll generate an alert against it, which makes no sense because you can't do anything with that. That incident's literally what Microsoft's telling you is happening on that system. So if you actually look at it, I think we spotted this morning, notebook access issue. It's done. It happened 2 days ago. There's nothing you can do about it. We can clear it out of our system, but you've just been informed by Microsoft that they've got a target around it. That's all.
Yeah, this is informational incident. And you can see here a list of alerts coming from Office 365. Open every day, and it will be closed by Microsoft. It's not under your control. So
no, but just being aware of it so that you can inform your users that there's a problem and Microsoft's looking into it is already a step up than what you've got out of SCOM these days. We're getting the question through, which I just want to tackle now then. So can these alerts be sent to SCOM? No. We don't actively push anything into SCOM that we gather in the alerts for this particular reason, because incidents can't do it. If you are looking for a solution like that, I'd recommend looking at the management packs that are out there to grab the data into SCOM. However, I understand a little bit what the question is referring to, using this as an incident system. So while we're on this page, we can show you the ability that we can actually hook up directly onto an incident tool. Now, we don't have the one that you're mentioning in your question, sir, but I do have another competitor out there. It works similar. We can hook up to all ITSM tools, and you can actually create a ticket here. So what I just did is multi-select all of those alerts, and I could create Justin's incident for this. Let's give it some gibberish, but those will be the fields that you have to pour in. You can see automatically here we do something else, is that we track that incident once it gets created. So if someone goes and closes the ticket down in the ticketing system and says they've got it fixed, we will actually attempt to close that down in the target monitoring system. Now keep in mind that won't work for Office 365 because there's nothing you actually physically close down. It's just a live stream of components. Upon a refresh here, you'll see instantly that that incident is now available for me, and I can actually track how many tickets are there. I did that the manual way in our product. We also have a full automation of this, which I can show you just now, which does all those steps. And essentially, that's how we funnel down thousands of alerts into one ticket. Now, obviously, if those alerts cause from a different problem, you can separate them out, but you can have full visibility and tracking of that instantly. And we did that just against that object. So already, Microsoft Teams has now 2 incidents, one coming from Office 365 and one coming from my ticket system that Justin has to go fix after this demo when he gets a bit of time. I think that covered at least some of the.
This is my demo environment. You know that you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You got an extra incident in there. Don't worry, no one's looking at it. Hopefully that does answer your question. If you are looking for it to also be informed of you when we automatically raise that, which is something that we do as well, we actually have that, and I'll show it now. We'll put together a service based around SCOM data, based around the email service sitting in Office 365, and then some random Azure objects because we don't really have any objects around it. If we had a virtual node or something there, we would have it. So in the product, you have a search ability which you can instantly go, show me Exchange. Yep. So I'm just going to grab my Exchange 2010 service coming out of SCOM, which we've got put together.
What you are building now?
A container or a board, a dashboard, that allows all of the objects to be represented together. So an email service, as the business understands it.
Yeah.
How we understand it in IT, we'll have an email on-prem, monitored by SCOM, and then we'll have email components.
That's the perfect hybrid solution.
I try. This is what I do.
Yeah.
This is why we built it. So let me call it email service, because I think I've actually did it this morning and I haven't deleted it in your system. You'll see there's a very simple process that we've got in here that we've actually borrowed, stolen, improvised from Operations Manager, because essentially sitting above Operations Manager, we have the ability to pull from Azure components as well. Now, Office 365 and Azure don't really understand grouping and overriding control systems. So imagine you have a SQL cluster sitting up in Azure or mailboxes sitting up in Azure on multiple servers. 1 out of your 10 servers is red. You don't basically want to show the boss that it's red because that doesn't mean the service is down. So you have to work with overrides. Well, we have it on our dashboarding there that you can actually cause the top part to show a option of numbers of objects underneath that they don't actually influence the red. So you can actually you can control multiple objects there. You can have failovers, you can have clusters, and they can roll up to the dashboard to represent green, even though 1 or 2 objects will still be red. You'll be informed of them. So email service coming in here. In a couple of seconds, that'll be updated. I'm going to guess it's going to be red. We've only got the SCOM objects in there. Yeah, sorry. SCOM never gets fixed because no one worries. The mailbox is full open. But for this example, what I'm going to do is go back to the search, and I'm going to grab from Office 365. Let's just go into Groups and Services and send this down straight away. And I'm going to grab the email service, which luckily in Office...
Exchange Online.
Yep, which in Office is green, and I can pin that immediately to the board. Now, I'm doing this the manual way. You can actually get this fully automated. So if you are I need to select it. Yeah, my apologies. If you're fully accustomed to the dynamic ruling system, you could do that as well in our system.
Yeah.
Ooh, which one? Top one. Yeah.
Top one.
So if I go directly to that board now, you should see that SCOM is actually running its service, and Office 365 has its service components together, and immediately we have access to the data. And we can actually use this button here to locate what the root cause is of the problem within Exchange. It simply opens that up, tells me that that's the issue. I can click on that, which is a mailbox server group. Oh, wow, rah, mailboxes fill up all the time. And within a click of a button, I can be down in my live maps or my other tools. So be that vCenter, be that Azure, be that wherever I have a web portal on there. So that'll log into Live Maps, and I'm not going to wait for that because that's a very slow environment. I will show it to you once it's uploaded. So that's how we've got, hybrid scenario already just on 2 monitored objects. But of course, the next step is, well, I've got network devices sitting in another tool that becomes very important for people to access that system. So can you add that information in here as well? Let's see. Oh, I do have a node. Is that from? That's probably from ServiceNow. Not good for the example. Let's see if I just have a simple ping. Yeah, so Azure Insights comes in with an object. Let's say that's very important. That's the virtual node balance or whatever that you guys have in there. I'm just making it up, but you can pull the object. You can grab it and pin it to the board again. Email service. And voila. You've now got a full service map with the full 360-degree coverage. And you'll notice we automatically align all the alerts together and the incidences, if there were any, are from ServiceNow against those objects are being shown. So you have the flexibility to show people what the current health state is, get them to drill down into their components, and actually start having a living, breathing dashboard. So that now rolls up onto a big screen, which you can have in the NOC Center, and show people and management at least what's going on.
Apologies for my environment.
We're struggling with it at the moment because I'm pressing too many buttons and it's not responding, but hopefully you guys get the idea. You have the email service up here. In NOC mode, that basically will show you the health roll-up that you've chosen. You can have a very simple pie chart to tell us how bad the red is, or potentially my favorite is more the heat map option, which will have to come out of NOC mode. Or you could show the numbers of alerts. So that's automatically grouped together. So just on the email service we've put together, it's got 24 alerts right now and takes 665 hours to fix any of them. Not a realistic number you should target, but you can track it now.
Our Exchange administrator is not so effective.
He's not on the call. Let's not get him involved there. Numbers of incidences, again, with mean time to resolution. So, it's taking me 209 hours in ServiceNow to close anything. And, of course, the valuable management counter. So you can see the one I created now is not available till the hour breaks. It takes an hour to do a calculation moving forward. But the email service we did this morning has not really been fixed by anyone, so that's not looking very good. But that's a traveling number, and of course you can run analytical reports on this to get what has caused the most downtime, what is the biggest alert that I have, what's the issue that I have out of there. And that is all possible within this. Just to show you that full automation, you have the ability to come in and now automatically push all of the alerts that get generated against that group or groups of services out into your ticketing system, as well as you have the ability to send notifications. So to come back to the initial question, you could send them to SCOM if you want, or you could just get SCOM to report to us with all the other tools, and then we will send out a single alert, and I'd recommend this board state change would be the best option then. Yeah. You could have that emailed out, you could have that go out onto Slack or Teams, you could go onto an SMS push notification system, and very shortly you will be getting our mobile update, which means you'll get push notifications on the mobile app directly there.
That's
so
really hot.
Well, yeah, we could, give you a replacement for that SCOM notification. Keep in mind, this is only going to send one alert, even though you could have 5,000 alerts underneath there. You get one notification, which drives the person back to the dashboard, similar to what we're doing with Live Maps, but then on a grander scale. Obviously, if it isn't broken, we'll steal the features.
That's cool.
Hopefully that covers that question. I see a whole bunch more new questions coming in. So let me just have a quick read through here and see if there's any we can handle right now. So the product that we're showing right now is Savision, the solution. It's literally the product that we've got in there. I'm assuming that's coming from a person who's known us before for Live Maps. Live Maps is technically sold now as part of our solution as the integration into SCOM. That said, for the existing customers on here, if you have a Live Maps Unlimited license, then you will have access to this feature automatically switched on for all of your SCOM data. You will have to license for the other connections separately, and if you do not have an unlimited license, please reach out to our sales team. They're very willing to make you an upgrade offer. I think you'll see there's a slide at the end where they're even asking you to do that. That is our solution on the product. If you're looking at the Martello webpage, just look for the Savision dashboarding solutions. Is there some sort of API or SNMP or something to connect IQ to HP Service Manager? Yes, It's under development at the moment. Service Manager is one that we've had a lot for there. We do, though, to answer you, we do have a RESTful API, which does listen to targeting systems. So it doesn't have to just be HP Service Manager. It can be any system that can generate a ticket, incident, or data that we can put in the system. However, in reality, most of the time, if you've got a system that is fully fledged, fully functional, and you want to have a two-way interaction on the dashboard, drop us an email and we can get Zvi to have a look into the system or other developers we have, and we will build you a fully fledged, fully supported integration in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to give you an exact value. That really depends on your target system and how well they play. So just to give you an idea, WhatsApp Gold doesn't have an open API, where Azure is completely open API because you can't do anything else without that. It's there. That's the difference in it. Office 365 monitoring. Are you implementing any kind of monitoring? Are you just pulling the data from Office 365 portal?
Yeah, it's exactly what we're doing. We are pulling data from Office 365 directly as it is, with one exception, that there is an incident, something that you don't see it usually in Office 365 monitoring traditional way. So we have the incidents.
So we are pulling direct from the portal. We're not adding more monitoring on Office 365. No. Office 365 does a good enough job of that. What it's not really good at is putting the data into SCOM. Their management packs are improving on that, but essentially a lot of people are struggling with getting that data in. And the second part of your question is, how do we show it from our perspective, being the data center? Now, that's where SCOM can actually come in and save you quite a bit. If you haven't played around with it, you want to look into web page availability, or web page transaction monitors, or maybe the port check monitor. If you set those up from your data center, you can actually ping the portals or the web pages you have access to in Office 365 and get that data together. And essentially, that leads me into a very interesting dashboard. For those of you who are live maps orientated, this will look very familiar. For those of you who are not,
your environment looks better.
Yeah, I'm just going to step over to my environment now. Is this my one? Yeah, this is my one. So here you'll have the services overview. Now, if you have got that scenario where you're checking from your data center or from your offices to Azure, and you've got a tool that can do that, SCOM can do a good basics of it, but there are other tools out there like App Dynamics and Splunk and transactional monitoring robots like Service Monitor.
And what is important to mention, that we are not a monitoring system. We are visualizing the data and we are simplifying and unified it. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, essentially we build the relationship between those data systems. So on this board, on the left-hand side, you'll see a roll-up of your service. So you could have the Azure Office 365 Exchange Online, as I have it here. The end user experience, that could be monitored from SCOM, or it could be monitored from Splunk, or App Dynamics, or a combination, or Azure even. Yeah. You could ping your own servers on the back end and see that you can talk from Azure. It doesn't really matter to us. We just build a correlation of that data plus the application layer coming directly from Office 365, plus potentially your infrastructure layer sitting in Azure or on-prem, is all part of the same application. Yep. So we don't add more monitoring. You guys have enough monitoring tools for that. If you don't, give us a call. We can introduce you to a whole bunch of companies that are pretty good at that. Yeah. We have a few partnerships with them.
PRTG, for example.
Yeah, PRTG does a good job. SolarWinds is out there. What we noticed...
There's a bunch of free ones that work.
Yeah, I'm not going to go down that road yet. Yeah. I'm sure Google exists in their country.
I think there is an important thing that we need to mention, that for those who are already Live Maps customers, that we added for the last version of IQ option to transfer or migrate your existing services into IQ.
Yeah, so you might notice this dashboard represents a dashboard that's very popular within Live Maps, which allows you to group the same relationships in a DA and SCOM. That obviously means you've done all the work. So literally in here, if you do come into your system and find a service from SCOM, you will have the ability to just plug that in as a starting feature. Let's see, I've got one that everyone knows if they ever get a demo from me. It's called Order Entry, simple.NET service. I can grab it from here, and with a click of one button, I can import that directly into the maps. I think I've done that already, so that shouldn't come through because it's already existing. But it's a click of a button, you get it into the service map, and you're off to the races. You can start adding your network components. You can start adding your end user tests that are not in SCOM. You can start adding data from Azure, from Office 365.
Your service.
Basically, yeah, you get the full 360. On this said, though, if you are experiencing that you're having problems from your data center to Office 365 portal, and you've narrowed it down because the network monitoring tool is telling you that you've got traffic flow problems, or just basically packages are getting killed by the amount of data on there, give us a call. Our salespeople would love to introduce you to the other part of the Metello company that does hardware around that does improve that experience and quality.
Yeah.
I think that answers the question sidelined on there. Hopefully that was good enough for you. If you have some follow-up questions, let me know. I do have another question in there, which is really great. Do we need SCOM to use the solution? No. SCOM is just one of the data sources that we have available. However, for our existing SCOM customers, and if you do have SCOM, our SCOM integration is the only integration, which when you see the pricing just now, we will show you, that actually will give you a full web interface replacement for your SCOM dashboards. And we did that because that was initially our existing business and what we became famous for, because SCOM really didn't have an answer when users wanted to start sharing fast HTML5 dashboards or even dashboards outside of the SCOM existing systems. So for SCOM users, we do have a very good replacement that doesn't force you into SCOM. For any other product, they generally tend to be a lot better than SCOM on their dashboarding, so we don't have to replace that. So to answer your question, we don't need SCOM. It's just an extra data source for us. So you could essentially just hook us up to Office 365 plus PRTG plus SolarWinds.
Nagios or Xenos or whatever.
Yep. Let me switch back to my screen because I think that covers the show and tell session, unless I missed anything.
Sure, maybe somebody will ask us about something.
Yeah, keep the questions coming in. I think actually that question that you just asked leads me into this one. So, we not only do that for the current Microsoft offering out there, but we also have the ability to pull in other data sources, which when you start asking for the full view into your system, that data layer can come in there. We can essentially pull any data source in, just depends on how heavy you want that. So you'll notice some of the arrows go one way, some of the arrows go both ways. Here's an idea of what this looks like. So I think the slide is slightly out of date because we don't actually have the Insights one on here, I noticed.
Yeah.
But it is a gold integration. So we do have the other Azure logo sitting on here, but that'll be updated very shortly. But the Microsoft Azure, the Microsoft Apps Insights, and Office 365 are all gold integrations. This pricing that you see here is a subscription value for a year. We license per
tenant.
Per tenant for the systems that you group to that.
Yeah. All the cloud Microsoft Azure solutions are per tenant.
Yep. Okay, so that'll be tenants for you. So the multiple tenants you have, the multiple integrations you'd have to get. If you've got a worry about that, give our salesman a call. He's got a calculator next to him, and he'll give you a rough estimate on that.
That's good, by the way. That's really good for those companies who are using. Tenant is basically one company. So if you have one company and with a multiple subscription, you can monitor all of them in one integration. That's great for those companies.
I hadn't thought about that, but maybe we need to change that. But for now, I think it will stick with that. So that means a tenant basically gives you full access to everything underneath there. So you don't have to worry about setting this individually. It's not head over. We don't care about what's in there. So if your numbers of subscriptions grow within the tenant, they automatically just roll into our system as well. So all of that becomes visible. So this is also a way for larger environments to be grouped together. So in the scenario you had, I think you had an Office 365 with multiple tenants around the world.
Office 365 is per one tenant. We don't have subscription for that.
But
because this is the service. It makes sense.
No, but for the customers who has multiples on, let's say, the tenants for Azure.
It was for Azure Insights, yes.
Azure
Insights, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have multiple insights and you want to get them into a single dashboard or a single interface that can drill down into them.
Yeah, for them it makes sense to see this information, for staging step, their environment, or for production and development. They were two separated information. Yeah.
And again, SCOM sits in the platinum layer because we do actually provide a full-blown replacement for the dashboards there. So announcing at the end of this webinar, thanks for hanging in there. Hopefully we've answered most of the technical questions that you guys had. Obviously you can get your hands on this if you want from our webpage. You can download it. I'd recommend not requesting it until you've read through the prerequisites, got the server up and running. This is not advisable to put it on existing SCOM installations or existing monitoring platforms because we don't want to break them by adding more data onto them. Get us a standalone in there with enough RAM and disk space. Check the prerequisites on our webpage and you'll be up and running. If it is interesting for you, we're introducing the Microsoft Hybrid Cloud Pack, where obviously you can get all of that for your migration paths right now. So Office 365, Azure and SCOM normally comes out, and I'm going to do it on the US one. So that's 5,500 times 2. 10,011 plus 16,500. Yeah, 27, 28. We're offering it where you get one of those for free. So technically you'd get it at 22,000. This is not a limited offer. This is always out there for a bundle. Yeah. If obviously it's not interesting for you, but something else in the gold range is interested as well, feel free to connect with the sales people. They will definitely to bring you up on a better offer. And of course, for the person who doesn't have SCOM on that question, yes, that's exchangeable for something else, and I think you'll find it's a lot easier to get some other integrations in there. Each integration does connect slightly differently for the non-Microsoft stuff. So if you're looking at PRTG, for example, that is per server core instance that you're running. Nagios, again, is per server that's running that. And VMware is per vCenter. I think we actually had a question from someone that they're running VROPS earlier, maybe in this one or in the earlier session. We can get data from VROPS, but we actually go to vCenter where VROPS goes direct to get the data, so we get the same data from there. However, if you want us to connect alerts from VROPS, just give us a call. I'll get Zvi to have a look at it or someone else from the team. And I'm sure that's going to be a quick change to the integration and you're up and running. We also have, for the non-unlimited licenses, as I mentioned earlier, for SCOM, for live maps, you can get an upgrade. That upgrade is this value right now, so it doesn't matter what you're on. So if you want to step up into the unlimited, I would definitely recommend getting a hold of the salespeople. They're very interested to upgrade you on the SCOM side, giving you full access to all those features straight away. So I did want to leave you guys with some other cool stuff. So what was it, yesterday or the day before? You released another cool free management pack again?
Yes. Yeah. One more. We're talking about database monitoring query results. So it's eventually help you as a SCOM administrator connect to your application teams and ask them to write some queries that can help you to monitor their applications by just running and executing a query, database query. And what is new about it, that is also supported except of Microsoft SQL. It also supports OLEDB, other OLEDB providers such as Oracle, MariaDB, MySQL, Postgres, others.
So essentially you could get some sort of end user monitoring through the query that you get from the pack. Yeah. Or as you mentioned, you could go to the database owner and ask them for a query around their application.
I used to do that. This is something that really can benefit quickly. It's a win-win situation that your application team getting information from SCOM. I know that this is some kind of a wall between them, usually between the infrastructure and the development teams. So that's a way you can get more involvement from your application teams as well.
Yeah, I think I get that a lot when we're in demos and we're showing what we can dashboard for the databases. You can get a lot of data out of SCOM, but usually there's the admin of the database going, can you get it on a specific query, or can you do this query in the database and tell me what's the slowest query in there, which is possible if you know the query. It's now possible through that management pack to get the data in SCOM. It's free. Feel free to download it from the webpage, get it up and running, and if you like what it does, then let us know, and we can show you how to dashboard that data really effectively.
Yeah, because we're also collecting information, performance of that.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
I've got a question coming in around the licensing. Do we offer educational discounts? Yeah. Feel free to reach out to your sales rep. Sales@savision.com is probably the best way to get someone's attention there if you don't have access to our telephone numbers online. I'm sure the person will be able to provide you with an offer that matches. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to myself or Zvi. I think that's the next slide here. Or info@Savision. If you've got that question, we will make sure that it gets to the right person to give you answers on that one. I think that's it from our side.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. thank you very much for listening
Thank you.
and for your time. It's been great fun talking to you guys again. If you want to get your hands on the software, feel free to reach out to us and we'll get you up and running as well. Thanks lots.